It wasn't exactly a flying start to the season for the Falcons prior to the weekend game with 3 narrow losses, but the team reached new heights against Geelong, potting them from all over the court.
We've got that feeling this week that yes, we played a good basketball game, we stepped up and performed well, and I think it's boosted some confidence.
The star of the show was Derek Rucker, 24 points and 24 assists, a new NBL record.
Can't really remember having that many assists. I like to go back and count them myself. It seemed like it went very quickly from 16 to 21, but nevertheless 24 is something that I'll take, and I was pretty happy with it.
He really is running the team, and he's got a lot of talent out there that he can basically do what he wants to do on the basketball floor.
The Falcons faced Townsville on Friday night, a team it's beaten 3 times in the off-season. But the players aren't complacent about the upcoming game, well aware that the team must improve on its 1-3 season record. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. PWCS has already started work on a $100 million expansion to add another coal loading berth at Kooragang. The second loader, when finished in September, will allow 2 ships to be filled at the one time. This and an increase in demand for coal overseas has prompted the company to unveil new plans for further expansion.
There is growing demand, particularly in Asia, for coal for power stations, and the coal they would like to buy is similar to the coal that can be produced from the Hunter region.
Port Waratah Coal will invest $200 million to expand its stockyard at its Kooragang terminal, increasing its capacity from 2 million to about 3 million tonnes. The rail facility will also be improved, allowing Port Waratah to take delivery of more coal quickly. When the expansion is finished in 1996, the capacity of the port to handle coal will be increased from the present 45 megatonnes to 66 megatonnes annually. And more coal means more employment throughout the whole coal chain.
The Hunter Valley Research Foundation has estimated that there will be over 5,000 jobs per year throughout this decade generated by the construction alone.
The expansion will also help to cut the country's deficit, producing an extra $1 billion in export revenue a year. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The plaintive cries were heard this morning by workers at Marathon Stadium. Within minutes, help had arrived. Ambulance rescue, the police and an RSPCA officer took on the task of trying to save the kitten. And what a job it turned out to be. First, it was from above. The kitten was trapped 3 metres below in this wall cavity, but that didn't work, so tactic 2 was from the other end. An office wall was partly demolished as our determined heroes tried in vain to get close to the poor petrified pussy, from the brick cutter to the chisel, and then a hammer. Still no result, so time to bring out the big guns.
Oh, puss. Where are you? Come on, you gotta make an effort, mate, wherever you are.
But little Marathon, as he was now affectionately known, just wouldn't cooperate. So our intrepid rescuers decided to take a different tact. He definitely wasn't thirsty, but he just might be hungry. Still no luck, so with one office damaged, it was time to try the other. But just as work was about to begin, a call from above. Marathon was safe and well.
Use this loop we usually use to get snakes out. So we just put a flashlight in the end and just kept trying, extending it down, trying to close it up. Around a cat's stomach and just pull them out.
The RSPCA will take care of Marathon until a home is found. And who could resist a face like this?
For 3 months now, Barraba residents have faced water restrictions. It's the result of a few dry years and a lower water table. At this stage, the town relies on the Manila River and Barraba Creek for water. Connors Creek Dam is its backup supply, but a combination of silt and blue-green algae has rendered it almost useless. That's left council looking for a more reliable alternative.
Council's looking at a guaranteed supply, not a stopgap measure that might last us a couple of years until the next dry period. So our investigations have highlighted that Split Rock Dam is our long-term solution for the problem.
Public Works is investigating the suggestion and should make a recommendation in about a month. It's hoped ratepayers will only have to foot half the $3.2 million bill. According to council officials, there may not be so many around to worry about it if something isn't done soon.
The population of the town trend is in reverse. Not only due to the water supply problem, of course, there are other issues that are involved, but unless we do solve the water supply issue, we can't reasonably expect a growth in the town.
In front of a hometown crowd at Casino RSL, Rousel was out to put the prestigious Australian title under his belt in his 8th professional fight. From the first round, Duke was in trouble, this flurry of punches putting him well and truly on the defensive. Rousel scored consistently with hard body punches, making it difficult for the southpaw to connect at any stage. By the fourth, a punishing barrage of body punches and a right uppercut putting Duke on the ropes. Another attack by Rousel in the 7th put Duke on the canvas. 2 minutes, 26 seconds into the 8 of 12 scheduled rounds, the fight was stopped, Rousel having convincingly won every round.
Thousands of people will take part in the Tyrian district to Stedford. The event held at Manning Entertainment Centre during the month of May has attracted entrants from Coffs Harbour to Sydney.
The standard is excellent and the costuming is beautiful.
Age is no barrier here. The youngest performers are 3 and 4. The dance section was being judged this weekend.
Parliament House was chosen as the venue to maximise the display's exposure to parliamentarians, senior public servants and Sydney business people in general. In the organisational phase of the exhibition back in mid-March, Chamber President Colin Chapman said the idea is to dispel the myth that Newcastle and the Hunter are the poor relation of Sydney.
What we're trying to do is explain to the politicians in Sydney that really we do have something to offer up here that's a very high standard.
Some of the 20 high-profile firms represented include Ganinan, Tomago Aluminium, HunterNet, the Ports Authority, Honeysuckle, PWCS and Howard Smith. But the arts are not excluded either, with the Hunter Orchestra also involved, along with a display by the Chamber of Commerce itself.
The current system whereby retirees live off a monthly pension from an invested lump sum has a number of tax benefits, but that's about to change.
First message is people should look at allocated pensions very seriously before the 1st of July, but on the other hand, don't see it as a must-do situation. There are many circumstances where people, I think, are panicking into making an investment in allocated pensions when it may not be the right thing or it may not be the best thing for them to do.
Russell McKim is Vice President of the Financial Planning Association, a national body with 5,500 professional members. This week it's offering free advice across the country, the issue of the government's superannuation guarantee levy high on the agenda.
The problem is the government can't afford to keep spending more and more on social security, and people in, whether it's the next 20 years or 30 years, are going to have to look after themselves when they retire. And if you haven't saved the money, it's going to be a fairly miserable existence.
With so many institutions offering the best value for money, the advice from the national body of financial planners is to shop around.
For your own protection, you should go and get at least 2 opinions. Now, they may be exactly the same, and that's fine. If they're contradictory, then probably you get a 3rd opinion, or you have a think about just what sort of advice you're getting, and do you need to go any further.
Melinda Smith, NBN News. When skipper Tony Mowbray and Maury Morgan set off from Newcastle Harbour in March, they embarked on a record-making adventure. With the aim of raising $100,000 for life education, the journey has involved another crew back on dry land.
Hello, Tony. Hello? Tony. Yeah, is that you, Darryl? Yep. G'day, mate. How are you? All right.
For the past 6 weeks, students at Warramai School have kept in regular contact by phone plotting Hunter Endeavour's course. A special logbook has been kept and will be presented to the crew when it returns.
We think we'll finish sometime late on Thursday afternoon, late Thursday or early Friday. Well, that's all, and I'm looking forward to talking to you on Thursday, Tony. So that'll be great, mate. Maury and I are looking forward to that as well, Dal. Yeah. Okay, tell Maury.
With an impeccable record after 11 premiership seasons, Butterfield received his first send-off on Sunday. The incident happened in the 19th minute when he retaliated to Balmain's centre Tim Brasher.
Oh, there's certainly no doubt that he was the instigator. Had he not harassed me and slowed down the play of the ball, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
The black mark on Butterfield's record worsened after he faced the judiciary last night. The 28-year-old copped a 5-match suspension, a decision he says was an attempt by the judiciary to make an example of him.
They've got to set an example, and probably in the past they've been slightly guilty of not handing out as severe charges, and many people have been very critical of that. And possibly, we're just the wrong place at the wrong time.
Butterfield will continue to train with his team during the suspension and will be a keen spectator at the night's games.
My only concern now is to get along and cheer the boys on, and then hopefully maintain my fitness and try and be some sort of threat when I do get the boots back on.
Okay. The Knights team was announced today for their showdown against Parramatta at Marathon Stadium on Sunday. Darren Tracy has been moved into the second row to replace Butterfield. Apart from that, the lineup remains the same as last weekend. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.
Rapa Nui is a movie about the love, respect and friendship shared by the inhabitants of Easter Island prior to its discovery by Europeans. But it's also about problems, the clash of classes and the fight for survival. Zach Wallace, one of the stars of the movie, brought some of those themes to young Islander students at Waratah Technology High School. The actor, who spent more than a decade in New Zealand jails before entering a career in films, also drew on his experiences to give the students an education on how to succeed in life.
The greatest healer in man's world are these. Look, we go like this. Yeah! Yeah!
Zach, who's part motivator, part preacher, also called on the students to follow the principles of their Polynesian and Islander ancestors, so they can avoid trouble and live in harmony.
The group of 4 doctors and teachers from the Hanoi School of Medicine is studying community-based health programs and methods of training medical students in community health. Today, they met a group of postgraduate students at Newcastle who are specialising in clinical epidemiology and biostatistics, the studies important to looking at community-wide health problems. Dr. Zin Hoi Zong is head of the training department at Hanoi University.
I would like to change some content of a curriculum in the medical school.
Dr. Zong explained that a more problem-based method will be adopted. His role is to determine what facets of training here are most suitable to his country. His group is spending 3 days of their 20-day Australian tour in Newcastle.
"80-year-old Ada Collins was found strangled in her Golgabba Street house at Swansea on November 30th, 1992. The inquest into her death concluded today in Newcastle. In his closing submission, Police Prosecutor Sergeant Phil Lloyd dealt with evidence given by and surrounding 70-year-old Edgar Charles, who was having a relationship with Mrs. Collins before her death. Sergeant Lloyd told the court, "Parts of his willful fabrication in this place and his conduct with respect to a number of witnesses has been an affront to the mission of this inquest." He then recommended 5 charges be laid against Mr. Charles. 2 of those proposed charges relate to perjury or giving a false statement, another 2 to influencing witnesses, and a further proposed indictment of perverting the course of justice. In handing down his findings, Coroner Cole Elliott indicated that certain matters raised by Sergeant Lloyd will be referred to the Department of Public Prosecutions. He went on to say it will then be up to the department as to whether proceedings are instituted against certain people. In delivering an open finding into Mrs. Collins's death, Mr. Elliott said, "I am satisfied that strangulation was inflicted by a person whose identity has not been established to a standard required." He then directed that the police investigation continue into Mrs. Collins's death. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Since it was built 70 years ago, the Mater has become a well-known surgical and medical facility. Now under the control of both the Sisters of Mercy and the Catholic Healthcare Group, the hospital is preparing for the next century.
In the last decade, with all the changes, John Hunter, Royal Newcastle, Wallsend, the Mater has been as badly affected as everybody. And at the moment we're housing quite a number of different services which really don't form a cohesive whole.
As part of the change, the hospital's Latin name will go. From September next year, it will be known as the Mercy Hospital.
There will be very few people who understand what Mater Misericordiae actually means. Therefore, the change is to mercy, a simple English word, which reflects the philosophy of the sisters.
Newly appointed Project Director Chris Rigby says while the name change is generally regarded as a positive move, not everyone will be pleased.
But we hope that if we can explain why we're changing the name, to why the sisters want to change the name to a readily understandable symbol of what they're on about, we hope people will understand.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
When their voyage began in March aboard the Hunter Endeavour, Tony Mowbray and Maury Morgan were all smiles. Their aim was to raise $100,000 for the charity Hunter Life Education. That quest will be realised at 10 o'clock tomorrow when they head up Newcastle Harbour after sailing 13,000 kilometres in just 54 days. The feat will place them in the Guinness Book of Records for the first two-handed circumnavigation, including Tasmania. Tony and Maury have experienced the extremes nature has to offer, from the cyclonic heat of the tropics to freezing Antarctic gales.
A week last Saturday in the Southern Ocean, we had a day of about 50 knots of wind, and we ran under what we call bare poles. That's no sails up at all, and we were trailing warps and a drogue to try and slow the boat down. That particular day was our worst, if you like, for want of a better word, day of the whole trip.
This afternoon off Swansea, Tony was still happily at the helm and Maury was as lively as ever around the deck, and they insist they are still the best of friends.
We still, after 54 days, we still laugh at each other's jokes, and I'm sure we've told the same one more than twice.
On hand tomorrow to welcome home Hunter Life Ausail 94 will be the Newcastle Lady Mayoress Margaret McNaughton, but also some very important well-wishers. And just in case our two intrepid mariners are watching, we won't say yet who they are.
A 57-year-old employee of the Belford Street news agency had just opened up for the day when a man dressed in black stormed into the shop. He punched an 84-year-old male customer, knocking him to the floor before hitting the woman with the butt of a sawn-off shotgun. After jumping the counter, he grabbed the till and fled to a waiting car. Witnesses were able to give police the vehicle's number plate. The car was found dumped in an alley a short distance away. In it was the ransacked till and the stocking used to disguise the bandit's face. What has amazed police is that it's believed a child was in the car at the time of the hold-up.
We've never come across anything like this before, where we've had a child there at the time when an armed robbery has actually taken place, and in the vehicle that was used at the time of the robbery as well.
The Broadmeadow hold-up was one of two this morning. The other occurred an hour earlier at this service station at Argenton. Two men armed with a large hunting knife and a sawn-off shotgun escaped with a small amount of cash in a shopping bag. The attack at the service station occurred just 3/4 of an hour after thieves were disturbed breaking into the nearby Sulphide Welfare Club. It's thought the same men may be responsible. However, police don't believe the Argenton jobs are linked to the Broadmeadow attack. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Members of Port Macquarie's Sea Scout group have been without their home for 12 months. Sea Scouts have a particular interest in water sports. Their new building in Buller Street was officially opened today. It replaces the weatherboard building which was previously on the site.
Well, the need for a building arose as our group grew in size, and the accommodation within the building was too small to house the sections that we have. Also, too, the old building was starting to be a big cost factor in maintenance.
The building was constructed with help from the community.
Specifically, Skillshare at this stage have done the bulk of the heavy work. They've run carpentry courses and block laying courses and other things so that they can help us to get the building underway.
The building includes boat and gear storage areas and committee meeting rooms.
A vocal home crowd at the Palace in Canberra were soon disappointed. Rucker was the Falcons' top scorer with 24 points, closely followed by Dozier, who posted 23 points. The two Americans were in devastating form, cutting a swathe through the Cannons' defence. An encouraging statistic to come out of the game for Falcons coach Tom Wisman was his team's defensive record. Canberra managed to score a mere 46 points after the first quarter. It was a vital victory for the Falcons, who are now only one win out of the top 8. With the likes of triple Commonwealth gold winner Sam Laguza and state rep George Dawes on the team, Newcastle were the favourites at Katara Bowling Club. The Sydney side were no pushovers though, with bowling legend Peter Rubin on their side. Rubin is an Australian rep and has played for the state a record 396 times. Meantime, other sporting legends were recognised at Newcastle Workers Club today. 23 Hunter stars were inducted into the Sporting Hall of Fame, including dual basketball Olympian John Gardner, Australian hockey rep Robin Leggett and Australian cricketer Bob Holland.
Well, this is a marvellous occasion. I feel very proud about it.
And at Cardiff this morning, more than 200 people took part in the Lakeview Fun Run. Jason Maxwell from Rathmines won the hilly 9-kilometre course in a time of 32 minutes and 33 seconds.
They came from across the state to take part in the cycling tour. The A Division entrants pedalled 260 kilometres this weekend. In the first leg yesterday, they completed 3 laps of a 40-kilometre course from Wingham to Burrell Creed and Tononi. This morning they were back for more, covering another 140 kilometres on a round trip from Wingham to Gloucester and back. The A-grade division was won by 20-year-old Murray Coxon from Inverell in 6 hours and 36 minutes. Entrants in the B-grade division covered 200 kilometres over a similar course. Ryan Yates from Bankstown was first home in his section. Stephen Esfeld from the Hunter Valley Club won the junior division over a shorter course of 175 kilometres. The Manning Valley Invitation Open is proving a popular event on the cycling circuit.
Three and a half cars in every 1,000 were stolen in the Newcastle region last year, which extends from Swansea to Sandgate. That's down 16% on last year, and there's also been an 8% drop in the cost of claims. Car thefts dropped in Port Stephens, Great Lakes, Singleton and Gloucester. There was a slight rise at Lake Macquarie, Cessnock and Maitland, and a 9% increase in Newcastle City, although the cost of claims actually dropped. But the region is still 3 times better than Sydney and twice as good as the Illawarra region.
I think it's excellent news for Newcastle. Newcastle remains with the lowest theft rate in the state.
That could mean cheaper premiums for car owners in the region, who already enjoy the cheapest rates in the state. The drop in stolen cars can partly be attributed to manufacturers fitting anti-theft devices. But there is a downside to the figures. Although the number of cars stolen has dropped, there has been an increase in claims from people who've had valuables stolen from their vehicle. Thefts from cars in Newcastle City have jumped by 50% in the last 2 years.
I think they just need to be aware when they park in the city to try and be as careful as possible and not to leave their cars unattended and as I said, not to leave valuables in their cars.